So much of this access to knowledge is happening in very private settings. If you have a family that doesn't have a computer, going to the school library for an hour every other day is not the same as having a smartphone, always connected to the internet, being able to be on MySpace and Facebook with your friend all the time. That gap is really huge, and the school is not really a context that can mediate that disparity anymore.
These two computers are connected, and well, I can go to both at the same time, and my mouse can connect between both.
Luna, you prefer your real pet or your virtual pet?
My real pet. Yeah.
Why?
Well, because I can play with her however I want, but these guys, they're only, well, I can only do what the computer programmed them to do, so.
I think what we're moving towards is towards digital technology becoming a very sort of pervasive part of everyday life, so that we don't really think about the distinction between the real and virtual as something radically different. I think the worst case scenario is that these sort of technologies will accelerate the divide between the more privileged and less privileged. And I think a city like LA is a place where you might see that happening. So I think that is the worst case scenario. I think the best case scenario is that it will actually help bridge some of those divides.
My name is Laura Burkhalter. I'm an architect, and I've been thinking about the urban paradigm my whole life because I believe that there is another way. My dream is that the city becomes a city for people instead of a city for cars and money and power, that the city is built by people for people. I envision infrastructure for people, for example, bicycle freeways where you could cross the city from one end to the other without a single traffic light. I guess the crisis kind of helped us out. We had a baby on the way and we were looking to move into an apartment to rent, and it was so expensive. We said, we can't afford it, you know. We started thinking, well, maybe now is the time to look at all the stuff that's foreclosed on and bank owned and no one wants it. So we were lucky to get this place for less than half of what it would have been 2 years before. And we get to share it with our friends, with our community, and grow food.
I think a lot of people are starting to turn on to the idea of growing their own food too, because it's really probably better for you, obviously, than the things that you buy from the supermarket that are from out of the country or grown with a lot of pesticides or something.
Right.
Thousands of
And
miles
it's really
away.
cost effective to grow them yourself.
Yeah, it's much more cost effective, and I think that's why people are also getting behind it right now, because
Got to.
I read something, I forget, it's like a 6 time, you 6-fold your money.
Oh, right.
Like let's say you buy a tomato plant for $3, the amount of tomatoes you get from it is like 6 times more than what it would cost you to buy the tomatoes.
Right.
It is also making people aware that they can do it in their apartment, because you know not everyone is fortunate to have like an amazing space like this, and like I'd love to be able to learn how to grow like little plants on my balcony or, you know, something like that.
I would do that. I mean, we have the space on my balcony, and it's absolutely the case that produce is expensive now. Way more than it used to be for a variety of reasons.
Especially being more conscious and doing
When you're
organic.
conscious,
And
yeah.
Eating well is really
It's
expensive.
expensive. It's the
I mean, who
opposite
can
of what it
afford
should
to
be.
go to Whole Foods? You know?
Exactly. This is what I'm
No
saying.
one.
I think after the crisis, I think in anyone's mind, whether you're an entrepreneur or a person, a citizen of any nation state, is how do you become empowered and self-sufficient? Because we have this crisis and people were dependent upon a system, and now I think there's a lot of people are lost and trying to figure what happened and what's going on. I think the best cure, I guess, or what I think is action, and how do you be self-sustainable? How do you empower yourself?
I think the system has made us believe that we're powerless, that we're just at the mercy of the system, but we're not, because the system can only exist with us buying into the system, and if we don't and we start creating our own reality, then the system can no longer exist that way.
This is our workout for the day.
What I think it takes to get anything done is, first of all, for people to start daring to imagine what would a cool city be like? What would it be like to live in a really awesome city? What would that look like? And then step two is to start taking some action.
Is this the door right here?
No, that's the half round.
This is the half round. So let's find out where the door is.
Yeah,
That's the door right here.
This is the
That
door.
looks rectangular, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take it, go this way, kind of toss it up.
Toss it up. Okay.
The sense of community is becoming much more important than it used to be. People depend on each other. They didn't used to depend at all. Everyone was like off to themselves and looking for their own interest, and now people need each other. This is a bedroom, and Lauren will live here first. I think one of these, this one might be getting it up.
Yeah.
Which one is the long one?
This one's longer of the two.
You don't have a bedroom now?
That one's
I do, but I'm moving out of the place, so. And then to be offered to live here, I would definitely live here, so.
Oh, one is super long.
This one? This one you like? The long one?
I grew up in a commune, and we were very much on top of each other. And I think this one will take care of some of the issues that I think happen in the more typical commune setups. So I want to find out if it's possible to have a, you know, kind of a more modern version of how to live in a city communally. In the 70s, people, they felt like everyone has to follow one thing. If I'm a vegetarian, you all have to be vegetarians. If I don't drive a car, one has to not drive a car. It was more ideological. And now I think it's more practical in a way.
You know about farming?
I'm learning as I go. It's just beautiful and so meditative. Just kind of go in my zone.
I think that gold rush is over. Yes. People don't have the possibility to go after it because there's nothing of value that you can just like flip and make quick cash. So that's the whole premise of gold rush.
Is that the end of the American dream?
No. I think the American dream is bigger than that. I think that's just one part of the American dream that's been the expression of the American dream in the past, couple decades. But I don't think that's the whole American dream. I think the American dream has to do with self-expression to freedom, and it's been caught up in this kind of want to have, you know, materialistic aspect of the American dream. But I think Americans are very optimistic people, and they will get back up. So I think the freedom is now being redefined, and I think that's still the American dream, is freedom. But maybe it's freedom from the system. Maybe it's, you know, having your own solar cells and your own power and not having to pay into the system and having ways to get around that's not part of the gasoline company's profit. It's another kind of freedom. One thing about Americans is that they're very flexible. I think it's going to take longer for the rest of the world to accept a new identity for America than it is going to be for Americans to accept a new identity. Because people change their lives all the time here. And that it's kind of the way it is. And, oh, this is over. What's next, you know? Let's start over.